Hey everyone, welcome back to the Living in Maryland channel where we discuss all things living here in the great state of Maryland. And today we are talking about what it's like to live in Maryland and what to expect from a Maryland winter. So for years now, I've been making these YouTube videos and talking about what it's like to live here in Maryland. And when talking about winter and what to expect, for the most part, over the last few years, I have talked about how we experience all four seasons. It's great, and winter for the most part is usually pretty mild. Now this year in 2025, we are approaching middle of February. We have had a very legitimate winter here in February through February of 2025 this winter. So wanted to make a quick video and kind of talk about it to prep people and give you more information on what you could expect from a winter here in Maryland. So this is definitely probably the winter that we've had, our coldest winter that we've had in the last at least 5 years, and probably the most snowfall that we've had at least in the last 4 to 5 years. So up until now, the last 5 years, it's been pretty mild. And ever since I've started making these videos, this is definitely the heaviest and most snowfall that we've had in a winter since I've started making these videos. So wanted to talk a little bit about it so you guys know exactly what to expect. So as I said, we are approaching middle of February 2025 here, and we've had at least 3 to 4 legitimate snowfalls where the snow is sticking, and probably a handful of others where you definitely see the snow but it's not really sticking or anything like that. In addition to that, it's been very cold. So everyone it's kind of weird to see it get down into single digits here in Maryland, but we've had that several nights here this winter so far. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that as well. So we've had multiple nights now, I think and this was about two and a half weeks ago, where we hit a low of 7 and a low of 8 in the evening time here. And it's just like, you're just hoping and praying that your heating system does what it's supposed to do and does not, doesn't go out on you during those times. So, and I have a heat pump. I want to talk a little bit about heating sources here so you can know what to expect within your homes, and kind of what to expect there as well. So again, Maryland, we can, any given year, we can have a very cold and legitimate snowfall each and every winter. It doesn't always happen that way. Probably more years than not, it's going to be fairly mild, maybe 1, 2 snowfalls, sometimes none. We've had years in the recent past where we've had really no snowfalls that actually stick. But if you are moving here to Maryland, you do want to be prepared that any given year we can have a pretty cold winter and a winter with multiple snowfalls. So in the three snowfalls that we've had so far this year, we've had I think about most areas in this central Maryland region have averaged, I think, about 1.5 foot total of snow accumulation. We're expecting more this evening. So definitely something. I mean, it's fun to have those snow days. It's a lot of fun, especially we've got young kids now, so it's kind of fun to take them out, although it's a lot of work to get them all bundled up and all that stuff. And the 2-year-old lasts about 10 minutes before he realizes that his hands get completely frozen and just starts screaming for 30 minutes. So it's a lot of fun to get out there. It's a lot of work, but something that you can definitely expect when it comes to winter here. Now, when it comes to snow days for schools, more, probably 50-50, you've got actual snowfall causing a snow day within the schools, but a lot of times it's actually ice related. So you might have, in the evening, heading into, nighttime, you might have rain that starts to, turn into kind of a snowy, ice or ice rain or something like that as the temperatures approach 32 and then get below 32. And then you kind of have that crystallized ice where the schools just don't mess with that. It's a liability thing. And so a lot of times you're going to see schools canceled for that reason as well. All right, and then quickly wanted to discuss temperature. What can you expect temperature-wise on a typical winter day here in Central Maryland? So, it can range. So I'm not going to lie to you. It's not like I don't want to set like this expectation like it's, super predictable. It can, range significantly with a Maryland winter. But a lot of times we are seeing, our evening times, especially when we hit the beginning of January, through beginning of March, we're typically seeing your average nighttime temperature fall right around 32, a lot of times even below that. And then a lot of times your daytimes are going to stretch into the high 30s and, typically into the 40s. That's probably like your typical winter day, although it's not uncommon for it to get into the 50s. So it can really range. Now during our cold stretches, you can see your high temperature even during the daytime hover around freezing or maybe into the high 30s. But as I mentioned, two and a half, 3 weeks ago, our lows for multiple nights in a row, at least 3 nights in a row, were in the single digits. So that is very possible as well. But if I had to kind of look at this and think of an average, your typical low, most evenings are going to, stretch into the low 30s, possibly high 20s. But a lot of times they're going to stick around those low 30s freezing temperature. And then your typical daytime is going to get, well into the low mid to high 40s. So that's what you can expect temperature wise here in Central Maryland on your average winter day. As always, just want to mention I am a licensed realtor here in the great state of Maryland. So if you ever have any real estate questions, if you're wondering whether buying, selling is the right move for you at this time, please feel free to reach out however you are most comfortable. Would love to have a real estate conversation with you, and you can reach out days, nights, and weekends, and we look forward to having that conversation with you. Next, and lastly, just want to talk about heat sources in your single family, your residential homes here in Central Maryland, because a lot of times I'm, talking to people and they might mention in passing like, hey, we don't want oil heat, right? They want to stay away from that. And that's totally legitimate. That's totally fine. So that kind of got me thinking of maybe mentioning this stuff to people so they can kind of start thinking about what they might prefer. So there's really three main heat sources that you're going to see within Central Maryland. You are going to see oil. A lot of times oil is going to be kind of sourcing either like some sort of forced air furnace, and you're also going to see oil for like your boilers, which is like a hot water type heat source, so like a baseboard. So you're going to see oil typically for those two. Then you're also going to see natural gas on your forced air furnaces for wintertime. That's very common. If you're looking at homes built in the mid to late 70s through today, if I had to kind of do my best guess on, what percentage of homes have natural gas, what percentage of homes have electric, because it's a smaller percentage that has oil. So probably close to 50% have natural gas. The other 50% have, they're all electric, and all electric is going to be heat pumps, and we'll get to that in a second. So, your natural gas is a very, very effective source of heating. From the HVAC technicians that I have talked to, your natural gas typically is burning on average 15 to 25 degrees hotter, meaning air coming out of the vent, than an all electric heat pump. So when you talk about an efficiency standpoint, natural gas is probably going to be the way to go, from that standpoint. So, and a heat pump's going to do the job for sure, but it's not going to be coming out as warm. So it's just going to have to be working harder, especially on those colder nights. So as I mentioned, probably 50% of your homes built in mid to late 70s to current are going to be natural gas. The other half are probably going to be an all electric heat source. So that's what you can expect there. And then you've also got natural gas. So natural gases will feed your forced air furnaces. They will also feed like a boiler system as well. So just like oil can, you can also have a natural gas boiler. So if you're looking at older homes built in the early to mid 70s and before, you want to be on the lookout for a heat source, because especially if you're not wanting maybe a boiler or you're not wanting baseboard type of heat, you want to look into that, see if they've transitioned that to a more conventional or traditional forced air system that people are expecting today. Moving on, the third heat source is going to be an all-electric, homes that are all-electric. Now, this is where you're typically going to find your heat pumps. Now, heat pumps they're going to look just like your typical like gas units, right? So you got your indoor furnace, you got your outdoor unit that they call a condenser that's spinning. So a natural gas unit is just using that indoor furnace. It's not utilizing the outdoor unit. That's just going to be for your central air in the summer. A heat pump is using both indoor unit, and then it's also utilizing that outdoor condenser unit year around. Now, this is also why manufacturer life expectancies on heat pumps are usually 12 to 15 years. Gas furnaces can be significantly more, 20 plus years. So a life expectancy thing is something that comes into play here too when you're thinking about overall longevity of the unit, and future replacement, stuff like that. Now your heat pumps they're going to do the job, but they are going to struggle, and they get less and less efficient as you approach freezing and below freezing. So as I mentioned earlier, when we had those 7, 8, 9 degree lows in the evening, My heat pump does, I have a heat pump. So I live in a home that's all electric. It doesn't stop running. I mean, I listen because I can hear it outside. It's just running all night, you know? So, and it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna be, and all electric is also a more expensive, I think. I haven't lived in a home with natural gas here in Central Maryland. We've just been on oil and electric. But I think electric is going to be more expensive than natural gas, even though natural gas has gone up in cost since the pandemic and stuff. So you want to expect those higher utility bills in the winter when you're on an all electric source, you know, especially a heat pump. So, and with a heat pump, you also want to be aware that that outdoor unit needs to be always running. If it's not running, then for heat, okay, if it's not running for heat, it is using an auxiliary, AKA emergency heat, just the indoor unit. And that is using significantly more electricity, and you are going to notice a significant increase in your bill. So when you have a heat pump, I always recommend to people, I know it's hard, just try to listen out every once in a while, make sure your outdoor unit is running, because if you're on a heat pump, that outdoor unit needs to be running or you are going to have an enormous bill, especially during the cold winter months. So again, just wanted to give you a heads up on what to expect when it comes to heat. You know, thinking a lot about this with this cold winter that we are having here in 2025. And again, if you guys ever have any real estate questions, have questions about living here in Central Maryland, ever want to have a conversation about that, feel free to reach out however you are most comfortable, and we'll see you at the next video.